Good morning, everyone, and welcome on the 28th of March 2025, a brilliant day to launch something very exciting and very interesting that will support the innovation ecosystem in East Africa to thrive and grow. So welcome, everyone, to the Regional Innovation Entrepreneurship Summit of East Africa launch, which is today. And we're so glad to have each and every one of you. The day is going to be very exciting, or the session will be very exciting for you. We're going to be having different discussions touching on key aspects that really are stifling the innovation ecosystem, but then also we'll find a pathway where we can actually support different enterprises and also different stakeholders to actually collaboratively come together and work to enable this ecosystem to actually thrive. So our day is quite packed, and also we have different speakers who are also lined up to speak. And before we begin, I'd like to now invite Mike Mutungi, who's the ASEC chairperson, to now give his reflections and welcoming remarks. Before he comes, my name is Mercy Kimalat. I'm the CEO for ASEC, and karibuni sana. Mike?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a good morning. Nairobi is a city that seems to have a weather that has been changing every day for the last 1 week. But just to invite everybody to this wonderful summit, the Regional Innovation Summit, Regional Innovation Entrepreneurship Summit. And thank you, Mercy. You're a powerhouse full of energy that keeps, remember that Energizer bunny that keeps every one of us full of energy. Thank you very much. But let me just give you a bit of data about the future. A while back, a director for CIA, as the story goes, was asked by the US president, tell me the future in one word. And he said, Africa. Then he was told, I told you to give me the future of the world in one word. He said, Africa. The American president was curious. He said, what do you mean by Africa? He said, let me tell you some statistics that we already have. Number one, by 2050, 1 out of every 4 people will be African. By 2063, 1 out of every 2 people who are working will be African. And so the future of the world is really Africa. Africa has a total population that you can engage in trade of about 1.3 billion people. And therefore, really, as we look at 2050 and beyond, Africa is a continent to watch. When you look at the natural resources, Africa is more well endowed with natural resources than any other continent in the world. We have the richest deposits of uranium, diamonds, name it. Whatever you are looking for, you'll find it in Africa. In terms of fresh water, we are the continent that is completely endowed with fresh water. And also, in terms of global pollution, Africa only contributes 3% global pollution, with other continents contributes the remaining 97%. So as we look at the world, really, Africa will lead the world. I think the question is, how do we begin uniting around different economic blocks to be able to accelerate trade, to be able to accelerate enterprise? Our current drawback as Africa is, while European inter-European trade is about 60%, Africa is only 16%. And partly the reason for this is because of the way we are colonized, we are broken into pieces, where you find if you're going to fly to Morocco, you have to fly to Europe and then fly back to Africa, which makes the cost of travel very expensive. We create barriers around needing visas, different passports, different currencies. And so Africa must be able to unite, and particularly inter-Africa trade must be accelerated, which means then the individual economic blocks like East African Community Market must all be united. And together as individual blocks, we must begin asking ourselves, what creates these barriers? What makes regional economic trade difficult? What are the barriers that makes it difficult for us to move products and services within East African market? What about entrepreneurs? What skills do we need to have? When you look at education, education must be in such a way that we have identified skills that create value to our natural resources within our economic bloc, so that then we can be able to monetize our natural resources and export them to the global market. So that's why I'm excited about this summit as we look at the region, as we look at the bloc, and really grateful to ASEC for being able to put this together. And I'm looking forward for us to have a very productive time. And at the end of the day, the goal is to be able to make money as we monetize the various products and services that we have. And so I'm really looking forward for a very exciting time together so that we can have a very productive discussion. And at the end of the day, we can all be able to hit on the bottom line, which is having more financial money that is created to our companies and our businesses. So thank you so much and welcome you to each one of you. Over to you, Mercy.
Thank you so much, Mike, for those reflections and comments. And indeed, Africa is the future. You know, they always say that Africa is yet to rise, but we actually believe that we have risen and we want to scale every initiative, every impact, and also scale every impact across the country, but also even across East Africa and also the larger region worldwide. So we're really honored to have each and every one of you being part of the inaugural Regional Innovation Entrepreneurship Summit for East Africa. This actually is a convening by the innovation ecosystem saying we want to come together and collaborate. And who better off to actually give us practical skills and even insights on actually what does it mean to really bring together the East Africa community together, none other than our keynote speaker, which is Nancy Gitonga. A brief bio about Nancy. Nancy is the chairperson of the East African Women in Business platform, and she's also the founder of AWEP Kenya chapter. Alongside that, she's also a president and the CEO of Zamora Consulting Group Kenya. She's very passionate and committed to promoting entrepreneurship growth and development with over 20 years of experience in the field of women's economic empowerment, business sustainability and innovations, gender and trade, SMEs, entrepreneurship development, private sector growth, strategic partnership, also stakeholder engagement. She has worked in various women organizations, including the EAC Regional Institution for Women, that's the East Africa Women in Business platform, and also the East African Business Council, Africa's Women Entrepreneurship Program, which is leading the Kenyan chapter, and also leading FEWA as the CEO. She has vast experience in management of donor-funded projects, institutions, strategic leadership, risk management, and resource mobilization. She's also a consultant who works with government, development partners, and also other research organizations. Nancy holds a master's degree in the MBA, a bachelor's of business administration degree. She's a trained and certified expert by the UNCTAD, that's the United Nations Trade and Development arm. You have the International Labour Organization, International Trade Center, and also BDI, amongst others. So we're really having the privilege of bringing in Nancy with diverse experience, but at the same time also her diverse expertise in actually what it means to bring collaboration together. And her topic for this morning will be looking at how to foster entrepreneurship through collaboration, that is building a sustainable future to accelerate socio-economic development in East Africa. Karibu sana, Madam Nancy.
Thank you very much, Mercy. I am always very proud of you. I've seen you to the arena of the East Africa community leading in business in various ways. And so I'm very, very much humbled to be here today. Mercy, I don't know whether it's okay. I can share my presentation so that we can quickly get together. I don't know whether it's visible.
Yes, you can.
Is it clear? Is it visible?
Yes, we can hear you.
And the screen, you can see. You can see the
Not
screen.
yet.
I don't know why it's not showing.
Just try now, Nancy.
Okay. And now
Yes, we can see it.
you can see it. Okay, thank you very much. Mercy, I'm very humbled, like I just said, for that honorable introduction. I don't know whether I'm all those things, but you can't tell. People must tell you who you are. I'm so humbled to be here this morning. One thing that I am very, very impressed about is ASEC's taking over and really bringing these kind of discussions, because this is what is really going to work for us as Africa. And I'm so happy. Chairman, thank you very much for the brief statistics you brought into our space. It's really one thing for us to sit down and imagine we are running institutions or we are supporting entrepreneurs, but without having these discussions around us to understand. And I'm quite humbled because, and I truly agree when Marcel shared with us the concept paper that really basically talked about innovation and entrepreneurship. And, it talked about how it continues, to grow, what communities are supposed to do for the startups, SMEs, and who is supporting. And again, also brought out the idea that, but there are challenges, which is true. A fragmented ecosystem that includes looking for funding, low skills, markets, data, policy. These are all things that are really hindering entrepreneurship to thrive within the East Africa community. What I bring on the table are my experiences, having worked actually at the East Africa Business Council and together with the East Africa Women in Business Platform as a regional coordinator, coordinating 6 countries then that were in the East Africa community. And some of the things that really I can say I came across, and even up to today, that fosters entrepreneurship is collaboration. Collaboration that enables building a sustainable future to accelerate socio-economic development. And when we talk about this, fostering, what comes to my mind? Number one is entrepreneurship and innovation. And we may ask ourselves, what is entrepreneurship and innovation? They are both intertwined, actually. And entrepreneurship involves starting and managing businesses. But innovation, it are the processes and the progress which enable these ideas to become real businesses or to continue, or the methods that enable a business to grow. Entrepreneurship will always play a very prominent and worth noting role when it comes to SDGs, that is Sustainable Development Goals. We all know entrepreneurship will bring in new businesses, will bring in jobs, create jobs, will alleviate poverty. It is going to see our world move. And I'm so happy because our chairman has just alluded to that very, very, very clearly. So in order to accelerate socio-economic development in East Africa, fostering entrepreneurship is not an apology. It is going to be a collaboration, building sustainable futures and leveraging digital platforms. I can see here already we are using AI. So these are things we cannot run away from. So what are the key aspects of fostering entrepreneurship? This is what I came across, and this is what is working even in the institutions where I am seated. We must create supportive ecosystems. Entrepreneurship hubs, like the ICT infrastructure, the mentorship programs. In one of my institutions, we just concluded a very successful last year, a mentorship and coaching program for women for export readiness that was supported by TFO Canada. Today, the 20 women we coached, they are all exporters. When they came into the arena or into the training, they were not. Some of them did not even have certification. They didn't even have good packaging material. But by the time we were done within 4 months, today, I can report that they are all exporting, either within East Africa or within Africa, in Europe, the global markets, in the US. It's doable, it's workable. Collaborations. This must be fostered really with the government, with the education institution, with the private sector, among the associations themselves, because we need to support each other. As a standalone entrepreneurs, I don't think we can make it. And I am talking as a practicing entrepreneur. Digital platforms, we must leverage on them because we must connect in the easiest way, in the workable way with other entrepreneurs, with markets. We must learn and learn very quickly. So digital platforms are the key thing. We must foster collaboration for sustainable growth, collaborations and partnerships. Again, I say whether with the government, with the private sector, among ourselves, among the groups that we are existing with, it's a key thing. The other thing that I have come across that I found quite engaging that I really want to share with is promoting innovation and sustainable practices. And so we have to look back, the level of skills we have. So we need skills development, and this is through training programs that we equip the women and the youth and other entrepreneurs to have the necessary skills. Why do I say this? Allow me to give an example of, for example, an entrepreneur who has really worked very hard, has gotten to a level where they want to start exporting. Skill number one, you must understand the country you're exporting to, what are the needs, what are the requirements, the certifications that are needed. This is all knowledge. You've done your 50%, that is developing a very good product, but to send it to the market, you need extra skills. Sustainable entrepreneurship. These are practices that must be real, and we must get ourselves aligned to them. For example, whatever you are doing, environmental impact is very, very, very important. We can't work outside of that. So we must run enterprises that are sustaining also, the entire ecosystem. Social enterprise, we really must support social entrepreneurship, because remember, in Africa, we need to involve our communities, wherever communities you are in. We must have inclusion, the women, the youth, so that we can have social impact. We are also thinking about who else are we going to involve in this? Is it our county governments? Where we are, if you are a farmer, where you are growing your crops. So all this is all part of how we can grow entrepreneurship, how we can foster entrepreneurship, bring in innovation. My other point is empowering women and youth. Why women and youth? I may be challenged why I am so much of women and youth, because that is my constituent. I've worked with women for the last over 20 years. That is the biggest population in terms of consumption and in terms of suppliers. Whoever taps into that well, I can assure you, will go far as an entrepreneur. But then let us ask ourselves, in the current state of gender parity in businesses, is there an equal share for women entrepreneurs and the youth? Yes, I know, like, for example, our government has really tried. We had the Women Fund, we had the Youth Fund, but really, practically, is it working? So we might ask ourselves, and this is what we do in the institution I serve. We are very particular about trade policies and other policies that really we must want our government responsible so that they can create an enabling environment for the entrepreneurs to thrive. And talking about empowering the women and youth, I think I cannot close this without saying there's need for access to capital, access to market. AGOA was here. AGOA right now, I really don't think it will go far. We are still waiting to see how the new administration of the US government is going to take this. But of course, red flags when you see like the USAID funds being withheld, then it means we might also find ourselves probably AGOA not working for us. But that's okay. You know why I say that's okay? We have the AFCFTA, our own. And I'm glad because Chairman really said Africa is a in thing. So we can trade among ourselves. There's access to data. There's research and development, mentorship, coaching, and networking. This is all going to bring inclusive growth. Why R&D? I'm very particular about research and development. Entrepreneurs, I'm one of you, I know. I don't know how I can say this massive without hurting anyone, but we have a very bad habit, and I'll call it as it is. Copy and paste. Allow me to give an example. We all have gone to Maasai Market. We've seen a lot of deprecation of very many products, but are we really remaining innovative? Can't we create new products? Can we come up with new ideas? I mean, we've reached a time where we really must be very creative. And I love our youths. And the reason why I must tag along our youths and encourage women who are in business, please make sure you have a youth working with you. With the technology today, making those designs, our youth are very good at it. We can tap into that. So my other point is I've come across is leveraging digital platforms. I'm just from talking about it, e-commerce and digital marketing. Our youths are excellent. I love it because they are so fast. They understand. And so any entrepreneur, please make sure you have a youth working alongside you. And if you don't have, get one. And I always tell entrepreneurs, please pay the youth because there's no unpaid care work here. We are in business, so the youths must get these jobs. And the beauty is they work from wherever they are. Whether it's a youth in Mombasa, Kisumu, supporting a business in Nairobi, it's so easy. Online training and platforms is important. We are doing it. And Mercy, I'm very humbled because I think this is part of the way things should be done. We must have this virtual conversation quite often. Digital solutions, they are there. And these digital solutions, they bring value in various sectors, whether it's in agriculture, whether it's in handicraft, whether it's in clothing and textile. We just need to really get ourselves down into leveraging digital platforms. My other point is focus on sustainable development goals. We must align ourselves to SDGs because remember, we are part of the universe. We must speak the story that is speaking to everyone. Environmental sustainability is important. We must take care of our environment, social impact. These are our communities where we are in. So whatever we are doing to drive, then our communities must find us. Empowering women and youth in supply chains. It's a big business, friends. Women and youth participation should be part of the empowerment. Supply chains is an untapped business. I can assure you that, friends. I'm a consultant and I work with various companies, institutions, government itself. But the reason why you will not find very many women and youth getting themselves into these large supply chains is because they need someone, we need a program that is designed to support them, to help them to understand. If you're getting yourself, for example, into this corporate, you need 1, 2, 3. So it's not a joke. It's really, I personally, when I started 4 years ago as a consultant, I really needed to understand the supply chain. I had to go and sit down with another consultant and I had to pay money to really to be trained But today I am very grateful because I am really quite conversant with supply chains. So this is something we can also tap into, because entrepreneurs, as they do all these things, who are they working with? How can they get into these supply chains? Where's this big business? But we need a program designed to really build the capacities of our entrepreneurs. What are my recommendations? We need to enhance financial products. Yes, in Kenya, we have a lot of money, but that money is very, very, very expensive. Capacity building, like I just alluded, we need training programs, please. We need mentorship programs, coaching, to really build on where we are at. Promote inclusive supply chains, I've just alluded to that. We need also to access markets. And sometimes these markets, we don't know where they are, but I'm happy because an institution like EPROBA, I think I can see they're even developing, really they're helping us to tap into the really huge international markets, but that is quite low. We need to get even ASEC, I'm challenging you. Can we be able to put a market together, even if it's just a trade fair? And we can call it and tell ourselves in the second summit, 2026, it's not only going to be a virtual meeting. We are going to have a market space where people can come and see the products the entrepreneurs are making. We are going to speak about that. I think it's a good space, ASEC, you can tap into. Research and development, please, let's do it. I have come across this challenge where entrepreneurs just wake up, you take your money, whether it's loan or personal savings, and you get deep down into developing a product or into farming. You have no clue if you're into farming, even the soil type of that product you want to plant. At the end of the day, you end up wasting so much of your time. Yet, we have in our institution like Carlo that you can work with, and they will be able to provide you all the information that you need. And I talk from a point of knowledge because I'm a farmer. I learned my lessons, and today I do a lot of research. I study a lot. I work with experts, agronomists, but at least I've offloaded, at least I can say 70% of my risk because I am working from research-based and informed point of view. Data, we need data. ASEC, if there's something you need to really concentrate on is creating data, finding out what is happening here, what are the percentages, where can we go next, what is needed. I think data is very, very, very important. And as I come to an end, my conclusion is of importance for entrepreneurs. Please align your proposals to strategic goals of larger corporations. Why do I say this? They are big consumers. You pig grind on their brands. They are known. And today, I love it because corporations, they have open arms. They want to work with us, with more entrepreneurs. So let us take advantage of that. Let us align ourselves to other partners, whether it is your county government, whether it's a national government. But be careful so that you can remain as that entrepreneur who understands his or her business. We need business coaching, business mentorship. We need to get network. Please, you can't succeed as a standalone. No. Because remember, your networks are network. Why are you struggling? If you can learn from someone who has walked down the road before, that person will be able to inform you where the bumps are. Please don't do this. Please make sure you have this certification so that you don't do things that are not aligned to government requirements. Remember that network, that mentor, that coach, the networking club you are in or the group you are in. That is your first market. Please excuse me. That is your first market. Examples of innovating entrepreneurships include developing new products and technologies, creating new business models, improving existing processes or services. It could even be value addition, addressing social and environmental challenges. Excuse me, please. So as I conclude, I welcome Marcel to really give it all. Let's give it a good thought. This regional innovation and entrepreneurship summit, which is a good place to Please excuse me, I'm just recovering from a very bad cold. Which is driving innovation, accelerates the regional competitiveness, investment, market, and job creation. Thank you.
Nancy, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, the wealth of knowledge that you've just downloaded to us is absolutely phenomenal. And I'm sure, because in the room we have investors who we're making a plea to you to actually design more tailored packages for enterprises. We have venture builders and also innovation hubs in the room as well. Please design programs that actually capacitate all these startups and SMEs to thrive and grow. And also looking at research and development, Nancy, that's spot on. It's one key thing that also as an ecosystem we've seen that is really lacking. And so how then can we use this summit really as a platform to actually collate and bring together all the research work that we are all doing collectively and bring it into the ecosystem so we can share and actually improve on our products and services. You have said a lot of great things. I cannot even want to summarize anything further, but just to say a big thank you to have you on as our keynote speaker today. And I think the call is very clear that the time to act was yesterday, but we have the opportunity today. So let's definitely make something move from that. So we have an exciting panel actually touching on some of the key things that our chairperson and also Madam Nancy has mentioned, and that is around the youth. So the question is that East Africa population is really growing. We have more than 400 million people collectively as a regional bloc. But the issue is always around how do we effectively engage the youth? And so I'd like to invite the moderator, Dr. Bernadette Mutinda, who's the country director of E4 Impact Foundation. And also she recently joined ASEC board as the cross-sector board champion, looking at how we can bring together agriculture, healthcare, maker spaces, looking at also mobility and all these other diverse sectors to actually harmoniously work together. And she will be the moderator facilitating the discussion on strengthening the university ecosystem to nurture high growth ventures. So Dr. Bernadette, over to you, and you can introduce your panel.
Thank you very much, Mercy. Please let me know whether you can hear me well.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good. Yeah, so I'm very happy to participate in today's discussion. And congratulations, Mercy and team, for bringing together this summit, the Regional Innovation and Entrepreneurship Summit for East Africa. I think it could not be more timely. So for me today, this is a very important discussion that we're going to have. And I would like to first thank Madam Nancy Gitonga for giving us very, very important points that I think we are going to glean through our discussion. So today we are going to discuss strengthening the university ecosystem to nurture high growth ventures. And I think, Mercy, you've already alluded to where we are at now, but just to start us off, before I introduce the panel, maybe I can just briefly share some highlights on this topic. As we all know, the Kenyan university ecosystem has really grown. in the last 15 years, I think we have so many universities now. We have over 80 universities in Kenya. Yet, with these universities, we continue to face major challenges. Just to mention that it is estimated that annually we graduate about 50,000 students from our universities. Yet unemployment, of course, remains at an all-time high. Studies done by various institutions, including Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, show that about 50% of our university graduates actually express the desire to start their own businesses. But only about 10 to 15% actually go ahead and start these businesses. But we all know the statistics around the survival rate of businesses and so on. So only 50% have the desire to start businesses. About 10 to 15% actually go ahead and do so. But the rest actually don't do it because of various reasons, which I think the panel is going to bring out. So to help us really to discuss how universities can bridge the gaps that Nancy has really highlighted in her discussion, and to foster entrepreneurial mindsets and to create an environment where ventures can thrive, we have a very good panel that take us through this. So without more, let me just introduce them briefly. In our panel today, we have Stephen Gidhi, who is a design thinking coach and learning facilitator at Africa Nazarene University. So we have the voice of the university in our panel. He's also the chair of the School of Business in Africa Nazarene University. So since 2018, he has facilitated design thinking training in various countries, including Ghana, Senegal, Uganda, and Kenya, helping organizations, communities, and students to use design thinking to drive innovation. So Stephen has worked in initiatives like Yearly Africa and Handong Fellowship, where he has been involved in developing entrepreneurship course, incorporating DT. So he's also a senior coach for Impact Week, a leading German nonprofit that fosters creative problems through design thinking in developing countries. So can you hear me, Mercy?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
So that is Mr. Stephen Gidhi, who is going to be part of our panel. I will quickly also introduce Dr. Roslyn Marandu Kareithi, who is no stranger to the ASEC Forum. She's our vice chairperson of the Association of Startups and SME Enablers of Kenya, that is ASEC. She's also the country director, Kenya and Stakeholder Mobilization Lead, Eastern Africa, and at the Ellen and Jill Gray Philanthropies. Dr. Roslyn leverages her results-based management expertise to unleash Africa's innovative potential, to implement strategic, impactful interventions, and to drive scalable growth. So as we all know, Dr. Roslyn is very, very active in the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Kenya. So she will be bringing her valuable expertise to this panel as well. Also in the panel, we have Mr. Patrick Njoroge, who is the co-founder and director of partnerships and innovations at EduTab Africa, an ed tech company dedicated to transforming education through digital learning solutions. He has over 9 years experience and has been at the forefront of integrating technology into education, enhancing foundational learning and promoting learning through play. Under his leadership, EduTab Africa has collaborated with other actors in the ecosystem, including universities, TVET institutions, and schools to develop innovative and practical tools that promote entrepreneurship. So I think he brings we also have Ms. Katuchi Kasandi, who is a consultant for the Lemelson Foundation, where she leads the Kenya Innovation Ecosystem Funders Forum. a platform that brings together 8 major innovation grant makers in Kenya to enhance collaboration, resource allocation, and impact. She also serves as a network weaver for Lemelson Foundation, managing partnerships and supporting key innovation and so she's also very, very active within this space and addressing major challenges that young innovators face within the ecosystem. So I will ask the panel to, activate their cameras so that we can see Dr. Roslyn, Ms. Katuchi. Ms. Katuchi. Very good, very, very good. So there is our panel. We are very, very happy to have you to give us your insights on this very, very important. So just to pick up from where Madam Nancy Gitonga left in terms of the entrepreneurship ecosystem, and now we are looking also at it from the perspective of strengthening the university ecosystem to nurture high growth ventures. I would like to pose the first question to both Mr. Githi and Dr. Roslyn. And just to start us off, we all know that universities are often seen as incubators for innovation, yet many student-led startups struggle to scale. That is for those that continue, that actually proceed to start businesses. So what are the key gaps in the university ecosystem that hinder the growth of high growth ventures? What are the key gaps? So I'll leave the floor to Dr. Roslyn and Mr. Stephen Kagwathe. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Buena Stephen, since you are at the university, let me give you the mic.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Benedict, and everyone who is here. I'm delighted to be here. I hope I can be heard. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Rosaline, for that. I was almost throwing the mic to you. But, well, this is very timely. This is very timely when you think about the numbers that Benedict has given. It is actually worrying. I was looking at those statistics, and then you look at where we are as a continent, as a country, and we must do something. Now, speaking about the gaps that exist in the ecosystem, I would say, number one, we have the gaps in entrepreneurial education. For instance, if you are to look at the universities that we have across, how many focuses and put attention into the entrepreneurship as a course or as a unit, if you may call it? You may find that entrepreneurship would only be taught for business students, which is a very wrong approach. So from the education, entrepreneurial education, how it is, how we started from the curriculum framework, does the education system appreciate the role of entrepreneurship education so that it is embedded and actually a core unit across, whether you're doing nursing, irrespective of whether you're doing education, you need entrepreneurial skills. So that is number one. Number two, still under education, has to do with how we facilitate entrepreneurship, even where it exists, whether in business or whether it cut across all schools. How do we facilitate it? And this for me has been a thorn, and maybe when given a chance, I can speak what you're doing. But how do we facilitate it? Remember, entrepreneurial is a very practical unit, very, very practical unit. But if you look at how a number of higher institutions facilitate it, they focus so much on theory. That may not be the output want. And here are therefore the numbers that Benedict is talking, or the numbers that we are very aware of. So that is number two. Number three, sorry. Number three is the who facilitate the entrepreneur. The facilitator. Again, part of what we would expect is that we have the entrepreneurs, people who have the practical skill, not because we'll be facilitating that cost from a different perspective from how
I think we've lost Mr. Gethi. Yes, so Dr. Roslyn, maybe you can pick up from where he left as we wait for him to join.
Happy to. And I really agree with the points that Dr. was making, around entrepreneurship education being only given to business students and it being more theoretical than practical, and mentors as well not being entrepreneurs. Allow me then to further on and add my perspective. And let me say that my perspective is from the angle in the introduction you had that I'm not only the vice chairperson of ASEC, I am also the country director of JASIRI. And in those two spaces, I have been able to interact with university students, interact with university lecturers, and I've heard from them and what is happening there. I also have seen in the JASIRI program, whereby we look for young people who have high entrepreneurial competencies, and we help them to launch and to build their ventures. We've seen a number of successes and a number of challenges. So in the university, it has indeed been indicated that not only is the methodology of teaching worthy of being updated with what is happening in the world and will happen in the future, but there's also the immediate and urgent need to increase the industry connections and the mentorship. So often universities are strongly connected to teaching. They are lacking strong connections with industry partners and experts, as Dr. was telling us. And these networks will provide very important insights, valuable guidance, and of course, access to different resources. So at the university, if we continue to focus on business as usual, when will we understand what is the pain point? When will our students understand what is the industry pain point? And it's not a matter of just understanding what society needs, but also the industry pain points will point you in the gap that someone is willing to pay for a solution. So we are often innovating in isolation of the pain, and therefore isolation of whoever is willing to eventually pay. So how can then innovation be better shaped by the industry problem? So that's my first point. My second point is therefore there is lack of support for commercialization and scalability. So if the universities are focusing on research and development, and their students are applying their minds to the ideas that their lecturers have taught them and to projects that they have been given, that's very good, but there is no connection with who will pay, then there will ultimately be a disconnection with resources, and hence limiting the scalability, limiting the usefulness of the innovation. Now, this is then coupled with what Dr. was mentioning in the constraints of entrepreneurship education. If we make it theoretical and not practical, then we will not have our young, amazing men and women coming out of the education institutions with the ability to see a problem in society and come up with a solution. Our keynote address speaker beautifully explained what entrepreneurship and innovation is. And I want to add on it to say it's that deep skill to see a problem in society and come up with a solution. So if our students cannot be able to do that, then it would be very difficult for them to have the necessary skill to commercialize, take their innovation to market and to scale. And then thirdly, and I'll pause here, there is then the felt lack of access to funding, to seed funding and investment funding. So if you start from a disconnected position with a pain point that's not really felt, it will take you so long to then get access to funding. Now, there are very few in the field who have grant funding to help the young entrepreneurs. There are fewer that have pre-seed funding, really what is called patient capital for those who are starting their ventures. And in this case, I'm talking about ventures that can grow and scale. There are few. And if you have not got a strong connection, then you don't have the connection to the large funding that we hear is in Africa. Allow me to share that Africa has at least 345 companies with a revenue of $1 billion or more. And roughly 40% of them are in South Africa with a total of 147. But guess what? Kenya is known as a country that has consistent growth, and we have 6 or more companies in Kenya that have a revenue of over $1 billion. How did they do it? It's a question. The other thing that we're seeing is, according to Growth Africa, funding raised by startups in Africa is phenomenally high. Kenya is reputed to have raised over $800 million. So why are our university students with their startups saying lack of funding in a context such as that? There's a disconnection, and I think some of the points we've shared may point us as to why there is that disconnect. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is a very interesting point you've raised there. There's so much funding that is coming to the Kenyan ecosystem, yet one of the main challenge that has remained for many years is access to funding. So I think that we shall pick it up as we go on. So our panelists, I'm going to ask you to be brief because we only have about, Mercy, you'll give us 30 minutes from now to discuss so many, interesting points that we cannot avoid to discuss. So to take us through the next question is Mr. Njoroge, and Mercy, Mr. Quest, I understand he has joined us now. Ms. Kimalat?
Let's confirm.
Okay, yeah, but before you can confirm, then I will throw this question to Patrick Njoroge. So entrepreneurship thrives on experimentation and of course risk-taking, whereas academia values structure and rigor. Yeah, structure. How did we arrive at this point? We must show how we arrived at that point. So how can universities balance between academic excellence with the fast-moving and uncertain nature of entrepreneurship? How can we strike that balance?
Thank you very much, and I hope you can hear me well, everyone. Yeah, so that's a very good question to ask, because one of the most commonly discussed topics across the industries has always been how do we bridge research and practice, because this is a practical example of that. But based on where we are as across universities, where learning is based on structured learning through courses or degree programs. But just like you say, startups and entrepreneurship thrives on experimentation. But I think there is a way in which the two can work together. And based on our experiences, because I've been in the space for the last 8 years, and part of our work has to be has been working closely with universities, especially either through offering solutions or working directly to like figure out how curriculums can be made flexible to allow entrepreneurship to courses to be spread across this place. Because just like my fellow panelists earlier on stated that entrepreneurship education has often been left to schools of businesses, and whereas there are immense opportunities across faculties within universities, right from agriculture to literature to medicine and everywhere else. But often what you see is that everything is left to the business schools, and yet the opportunities might not even lie there. The opportunities lie in other faculties. So I think that's one of the things that we've not done well across universities. But I believe there is still an opportunity to continuously build the capacities of other faculties within universities to be able to foster entrepreneurship mindsets among their students. For example, the faculty I was in when I was in university was in the School of Development. But upon completion of university, I registered my first company, which works in education. And for me to work in the education space, it meant I have to understand what happens in the space, which also means working closely with researchers who are working in the fields that I'm interested in innovating things about. And so I believe this is an area where we can continuously build collaborations. Seems like it was mentioned in the earlier discussions in the plenary. And if we borrow what has happened globally, especially in the Kenyan space, and I would like to throw this as a challenge, especially to our universities. All the universities we have in the country, do they have a strong alumni network? Do they know what their students are doing? Can they be able to track students 20 years down the line? Do they know how many founders they have coming from their schools? Because this is the rich network that could be leveraged on. But is it possible? Do universities have that kind of data? Because these are people who can be called upon either to invest, either to mentor young people within universities, as well as showcase how the collaboration actually works. Because it's not only about talking about how the research that the university is doing bridges policy or implementation, but there has to be practical examples of how some of these things are already happening. But based on where we are, there are a couple of universities within the countries who are already doing these kinds of things, connecting young people to mentors or funding. But then it goes back to working together to ensure that the traditional learning approaches we've had as a country are possible to it's possible to like shift from that. And right now we have a curriculum that has been focused on project-based education through the CBC curriculum, which is right now in the hands of the universities. And I think that's a big opportunity that universities have by ensuring that the curriculum we have, which actually promotes a lot of project-based education, is able to solve some of the challenges that have been highlighted in the talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Very insightful points there. Yeah, just to add to what you've mentioned, I think it was also very interesting for me to come across statistics that about 5 to 10%, of course, depending on what research you're looking at, about only 5 to 10% of our university graduates say that they have had access to entrepreneurship skilling by the time they leave our universities. So I think interdepartmental, or if you like, interdisciplinary collaboration, even within our universities, is very, very important. And I also like what you said, that we need to also bring in the industry early enough, and, you know, also through our alumni, because when these university graduates leave, where do they go? Most of them will find themselves in the industry, and they can be very, very useful to the student population already with these universities. So in the interest of time, I will quickly move to the next question. And this one, I will direct it to Madam Katuchi. And the question here is really about access to funding and resources. What has come out clearly in our discussion is that one of the major hindrances or challenges that our students from the universities face is access to funding to help them either to start their businesses or to scale for those who have already gone ahead to start these businesses. So how can universities enhance access to investments, you know, mentorship and incubation support for student-led startups, so that, you know, we increase their chances of survival and also increase the chances of, you know, students starting their own businesses? Over to you, Madam Katuchi, and I will also ask Stephen to chime into that discussion, but please take the shortest time possible so that we are able to complete within time. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Benedict, and the rest of the panelists. And it's interesting that a lot of the things that I would state here have already been implied by all the other panelists. So what is it that universities can actually do to enhance their access to funding to support their programming? One of the things, first of all, is universities need to really build a strong innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem within the university. And when we talk about that ecosystem, some of these components that different panelists have mentioned. So for example, for you to even actually be able to access that funding, it's important for you to make sure that the team have capacity to actually be able to identify those opportunities and engage with partners who are bringing opportunities into the university. And again, beyond that, it is also very important for the university to make sure that they do have policies in place to actually enable that process of accessing the funding and even getting out of the university. And they wouldn't even get into the conversation around IP policies and how that could be either an enabler or a barrier to accessing this funding that we are talking about. But there are also other things. So for example, I've seen some of the universities here in Kenya realize that their faculty actually need the time to be able to engage with industry partners. And what they've done is, for the leads of the departments, they've reduced their teaching hours and given them some performance outcomes that are geared towards engaging with industry. Because we want them to build these partnerships with industry, both from a place of financing, from a place of bringing that expertise back to the curriculum. And one of the biggest gaps that the faculty are mentioning is lack of time. Then we are pushing them to do something that they can't, just because of a time factor, but also because there's no performance incentive to enable them to do that. So for the universities, EGDED and Kimathi universities that are actually reducing the teaching time to enable some of their high-level staff to engage, there's also a performance metric attached to this type of engagement. Beyond just that, still within the university environment, I know a lot of you have spoken about the entrepreneurial education. And I would say that there are a lot of partners that are turning the dial around this. So for example, last week I was in a conversation with the Nairobi University team that leads the Afritech network. So the Afritech network is Africa Engineering and Technology Network. And some of them come from the business school, and they were telling me that they actually are teaching entrepreneurship as a core unit across all the disciplines. So I think let's also realize that a lot of these things that we've been really pushing are starting to change within the universities.
And beyond that innovation and entrepreneurship environment, I'll transition to the next step that universities need to do to enhance their ability to access funding. And I think is that as these small shifts are starting to happen, universities need to tell the stories of the shifts that are happening, especially now where we're operating in a space where funding is becoming more and more of a challenge, or more and more governments are shrinking their funding. So then it means that for them to even justify why they should fund a university innovator versus anyone else, there's a strong need more than ever for us to build on the narrative around why does this matter? And the why does this matter comes from like some of those initial investments that have been made and are starting to generate results. And results do not need to potentially be like they've scaled across these entire markets. Like for example, within my profile, you've seen one of the things that I do is lead a funders network. And within that funders network, a lot of them have invested a lot of funding to support universities to strengthen their innovation and entrepreneurial environment. And one of the things that they are starting to see is that a lot of the universities that are participating in these institutional support programs that are led by the Kenya National Innovation Agency are starting to be a lot more entrepreneurial. And the conversation at the funders level is how do we come together and start showcasing some of this shift in attitude as a way of just showing some of those early successes that universities are starting to develop an environment that you can actually invest in. Because even for them in the countries where this money is coming, they have to justify the why. And creating these reference points at the ecosystem level of showing that this is what is changing, but this is what remains to be supported becomes an easier, objective sort of like reference point that you can all leverage to make a case for more money to come to universities. Lastly, I would say that there are also a lot of national level support programs that bring together multiple universities where universities can be able to access some of this funding to support the incubation support programs to entrepreneurs. Because what I've seen, especially with funders, is that more and more it's becoming a lot more expensive to support one universities. So what's happening is that they're starting to look at aggregation of universities. What are some of those networks that are bringing universities together? So is it Afritech? Is it the work that Kenya National Innovation Agency is doing through their Kenya Network of Entrepreneurial Institution Leaders? And how do we channel money there so that through that money, we are able to support multiple universities, but over and beyond that, we're also able to influence innovation and entrepreneurship environment across multiple universities. So how do universities plug into some of these existing networks so that they can tap to that funding? Last but not the least, I would say that we've seen across the world that unfortunately, and this I would want to hear from the other programs, sometimes it is, and this is not just for universities, even in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, it is not the entrepreneurs that are just like stepping into the business world that do not have the networks, do not have the experience. Those are not the ones that are raising the funding now. But those are the ones that are getting into the programs like Jasiri and the rest to get the kind of experience, the kind of expertise, to be connected to the kind of mentors that then a few years down the line, they're able to access funding. So even within the university, if you are to mimic this model, how then are we using the university to develop a pipeline that is strong enough that can then be connected to opportunities further down the line for them to receive these investments? I think even from the investors in the room, it's really hard for you to come and invest in the student who's just started an idea at the university level. But there are other partners, e.g. the Lemelson Foundation, who have a lot of challenge fund programs like design competitions that give students access to that early stage financing to just experiment and test, with the goal of ensuring that they are growing that pipeline so that as they continue growing across the different programming within the entrepreneurial ecosystem, ultimately they are able to get into a place where they can tap into the accelerators, venture funds that then enable them to actually be able to scale. So I'll stop at that and allow my other panelists to actually share.
Thank you so much, Ms. Katuchi. I'd ask Mr. Gidi, Stephen, to also chime in. Maybe you can just mention a few things that maybe Ms. Katuchi didn't mention.
Well, I think I would just sum it up in probably one word, that university, and that is for any institution, and I also mirror this in personal life, they have to be deliberate. If we are talking about elevating entrepreneurship in our country or in our continent, all the players must be deliberate. Deliberate in terms of the policy that will be developed, deliberate in terms of the approach, deliberate in terms of budget apportionment, because as has been said, budget has been a serious issue. And this is also across research and development. If you look at the percentage that is channeled toward research and development, it's meager in most universities, way below even what Q require. Now, if you bring in the aspect of entrepreneurship, that put a strain to university. But what you're saying is that notwithstanding, they need to be deliberate from the structure, from the approach to budget, and also because as institutions, they stand in a better space. They need also to capitalize and leverage the networks, be it within local or outside, as our key speaker talked about collaboration. So I would actually say being deliberate in whichever level that you are in within the ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As we draw almost to the close of the panel discussion, the remaining questions I'll ask our panelists to move a bit faster, but I think this discussion is really, really very critical and needs to be taken forward. I'm sure Mercy is going to create more forums where we can have more in-depth discussions on issues that are coming to the floor. I really like what has been brought out by the panel, some good stories that are coming from our universities. I like what Ms. Katuchi said, that universities like Dedan Kimathi are already doing something about it, allocating less teaching hours to faculty members so that they can engage in practical, entrepreneurship and, attaching that to deliverables that can be felt by the student body. I think that's a very good thing. And creating, building an ecosystem around the entrepreneurs within the university. These are very interesting discussions, and being deliberate and intentional, like what Stephen has said. Now, to take us to the next question is, or to take us through it is Mr. Quest. Thank you, Karibu Sana, Mr. Peter Quest. We missed you at the beginning, but we are happy that you've been able to join us. So we are going to talk about industry and government collaboration. The role of the industry and government collaboration in strengthening the university ecosystem to nurture high-value growth ventures. So many successful ecosystems, of course, thrive on strong partnerships between the university sector, the industry, and the government. So what are some of the proven models of collaboration that have helped university-born startups to scale from your experience, Mr. Quest?
Good morning. Glad to see a friend of mine, Patrick, here. Patrick, how are you doing? So, I mean, I've listened, especially with Madame Roslyn and the previous speakers, and of course, what my friend Njoroge has shared is that one, there's a feeling that maybe the reason why we are not doing so well is because there's so much money somewhere and maybe it's not being accessed. The truth of the matter is that we have had a conversation even with the CEO of Kenya National Innovation Agency, and one of the things that has to be intentional about this is that there are strong policies. That's the truth of the matter is, with the government, yesterday there was the launch of the AI strategic plan 2025-2030. There are all these strategies being put in place, but until those good ideas are financially supported, then this continue to become a very nice ideas for young people. And sometimes I've met amazing innovators, people really trying to put their best foot forward. And eventually out of that, you realize there's a lot of disappointment one way or the other. I think one of the examples I want to give is that we were with Patrick, I think, in Riga, and you could see a lot of investments that was towards innovations, and it was intentional and deliberate. I am one person that I work for government, and one of the things that we want to see, and we are pushing, and that's why we work closely with the Kenya National Innovation Agency, is could there be a sort of a very deliberate, intentional set aside funds that perhaps will incubate some of these critical ideas? Because the whole issue is that how do we incubate, scale, and commercialize? And if you put universities with this, and of course, some of you, I mean, you mentioned Dedan Kimathi, which is setting the pace on this, and of course, some of their faculties have been very intentional. I've met some of them, and you could tell, then generally they have invested a lot. I had a meeting with them, two universities, KCA and USIU, and one of the things I challenge them is that, how are you willing to really take opportunities of what is available? And you see, when you talk about what is available, it's not only available in Kenya, but there are best practices globally that we could see how does government link up with university to support innovations and of course put the seed money to that. Because even within our education system, if you look at the focus even of the ministry is how many people are in universities, vis-a-vis how many products or innovation we can get out of universities. You see, the concern is more uptake rather than what exactly what are the resources attached to really making sure that there is proper investments and to enable these young entrepreneurs, young innovators to really access this part of these resources. Because I have been in the youth sector almost 16 years now, and it has been perennial motivation. It is more on motivation rather than on investments itself. We are pushing these young people to the limits. And of course, we are saying all these nice things. I'm glad to see what St. Paul has able to achieve. I mean, that's a good example of what could be done. And if you look at that funding is actually international funding. It's not local funding. So is it possible that there has to be a stakeholder engagement between the players of the ministries and the education sector to perhaps see and have very clear allocation of these resources and let not put these young people to a lot of hopes and motivations, yet there's no results out of this. I mean, some of them do a good job, but out of that, I have gone to a lot of startups, and I can tell you, young people are really putting a lot of energy, both those within universities and those out of universities. But moving from just a startup to maybe a commercialized entity has always been a gap here. One, in Kenya right now, there's a focus on Kenya National Innovation Agency. Maybe there could be a whole ministry around this. There has to be a proposed budgeted ministry within all the 47 counties, and that has very delivered with a very clear connection with the universities. And so that also skill matching, some of the courses being offered in university, some of them are not innovation related. And maybe that perhaps is the problem. I mean, how do we review some of these curriculums? Because you see things have gone to innovation and digitalization and sort of things. Universities are continuously offering traditional courses that perhaps are costing a lot of resources, yet there is no, outcome of this. So I like what ASEC is doing in terms of engaging productively and of course, making us think through this idea so that we are not only motivating this particular population of young people, but we are also intentional in investing so that perhaps this come up. Sat down with Patrick, and Patrick will tell you that it's a struggle to actually get these resources there. He has to write proposals and he has to engage mostly external, but locally this becomes a challenge to a lot of things. So let's have this discussion as it is, and I like the input, especially with Madam Rosalind. What she talked about makes a lot of sense. Even the previous speaker who just spoke, I think she disappeared. Maybe this screen makes them disappear. And of course, what Stephen has added.
Thank you so much, Peter. Sorry,
yeah, so
not on our side. If you can sum up, that would be good.
Yeah, so basically I was just saying, let's have this continuous discussion. We at Kenya School of Government, and I think Mercy requested this, we could set aside a team, and we might not charge on that, a team that just basically work on this kind of ideas and incubation programs, sort of, because Kenya School of Government is, they cut across, all government entities, including ministries of education and sort of. We could come up with such thinking. So thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter, for those insightful points. To finish this particular point, or to bring it to a close, I will invite Roslyn. Roslyn, I'll give you a minute to summarize.
All right, I will make best of your minute. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know, on this really great question on proven models, I had a number of points, but let me just share two. One, and it's a call to action. We need to intensify the industry, university, government, and entrepreneurship support organization partnerships. Those collaborations will indeed be more effective for talent development. I was very humbled. We as Jasiri were very humbled to hear how Madam Katuchi mentioned that point, that once the students are in university, they get the best that they can be given at university, but their journey should not stop there. They should look for opportunities in the ecosystem. And I say no more about that point that was put across very, very, very strongly and clearly. The next call is a futuristic effort. We've done a lot around innovation. We've done a lot now on entrepreneurship education. We need to do much more. We need to start really explicitly collaborating with government for national ecosystem building. There is need to create a more conducive environment. We need to amplify support to entrepreneurs through ecosystem building that will solve a systemic problem. We need to support the intentional creation, the development, and the nurturing of networks and interconnected individuals, organizations, institutions that collaborate to support that growth, particularly the growth of high growth ventures. There's a lot that we've done in the smaller businesses, the SME space as well, but we need to ask ourselves, why can Kenya not develop more lions and more large ventures, unicorns as they're called? And you know, it is said that entrepreneurs and their ventures are only as strong as the strength of their functions and their organized ecosystems and their visions. Yet ecosystems are only as strong as the strength of entrepreneurship support organizations and their visionary builders. At the same time, these institutions need to then be supported by policy and funding, as we have talked here. You've heard already from Madam Katuchi that there is a lot of collaboration that is being done by Kenya. We've had the same from Bwana Peter. So Kenya and others should come together with Jasiri and support government in explicit ecosystem building. And if we do that, it will lead to the success of the university-born startups being very, very good. We will increase Africans being able to invest in our African ventures. And if we leave the West to invest in our ventures, they will be owned by the West. And what does that mean for us in future? So this is a wake-up call. We need to really develop our ecosystem and ultimately to contribute to more jobs, more lives meaningfully improved. Asanteni.
Thank you. Yeah, so unfortunately, we have to wrap up. We have to bring the discussion to a close. We cannot go any further. I think we've eaten a lot of time for the next panel, but just to sum up what has been brought out, and there are very, very interesting points that are also coming through the chat. I will leave it to Mercy to pick it up as we go on. Surely, Mercy, we need more time for this in future. We look forward to the summit because there's a lot of meat that is coming out. So I think just to wrap up, there is need to be intentional right from the university level in terms of building an ecosystem around the universities. The universities have to build an ecosystem around themselves so that they're able to support the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship needs to be taught to all the university students, yeah, so that they're able to start converting or commercializing their projects. It's unfortunate that a research done by Kenya shows that only 15% of students, is it 15%, about 10%. I forget the statistic, but very few student projects are actually commercialized. Most of them, they will just, be in the shelf gathering dust, but could potentially solve problems. So because I can see Mercy is really hot on my heels, I have to end it there, but we shall be sending the summary of what has come out from this discussion to all those that have participated today. Thank you. Over to you, Mercy. Thank you, panel.
Thank you so much. There's a reason why we wanted to have the first conversation around universities, and that is actually because they are the ones that really are generating or bringing together this fantastic population of young people that are skilled, that are hungry for growth, and are really ready to be deployed into the market. And so thank you so much for that discussion. There's much more that will be coming up in the actual summit. And now I want us to transition and talk about the money. Everyone talks about there's no money, and I like what Peter said, that we are not finding it. So let's now have a discussion around how do we really look at regional collaboration to facilitate investments and access to markets for enterprise sustainability and also their growth. And to moderate this session, we have Njoki Kiama, who has such immense experience. She was previously in the construction industry, I just want to throw that in, and also has diverse experience in how do we actually look at regional collaboration and strengthening to really facilitate the access to investment and also to markets, not only for the enterprises, but even for the innovation hubs or even for universities that are really supporting this catalyzation effect. Over to you, Njoki.
Thank you, Mercy. A very good start to the panel discussion and a very good morning to everyone. It's good to have everyone here today. As said, my name is Njoki Riguga from Jasiri, and I'll be guiding this discussion on regional collaboration to facilitate investments and access to markets for enterprise sustainability and growth. We have 40 minutes starting now, and we will start with a brief introduction, then move to a 30-minute discussion with our panelists, and conclude with a 5-minute wrap-up where we'll summarize what we will have. But then, given the importance of this topic and discussion, I'd like to take a moment to emphasize this before introducing our distinguished panelists. So, in today's interconnected world, as highlighted earlier, strong regional collaboration is crucial. We are here to explore how the strong regional collaboration can truly make a difference. It's a powerful tool to bridge gaps in market access, attract investment and opportunities, and strengthen policy support in order to create the ideal environment that enterprises truly need to scale, succeed, and thrive. Therefore, this conversation is crucial for our understanding to foster business growth and investment in our region and wider while working together. We have a fantastic panel of experts with us today who bring a wealth of experience and insights. And before we dive into the discussion, I'd like to introduce our esteemed panelists. And with that, I hope that we can have the flyer up at the same time, the panelists being spotlighted. Number one, we have Vincent Odhiambo. He is the Regional Director for Ashoka in East Africa. He supports entrepreneurs, promotes change-making, and builds an ecosystem for social innovation. He has experience in various sectors and focuses on transformative partnerships and social impact. He holds leadership positions in several organizations, including Light Up Impact, Connexio Africa, and Girls Be Change. He has also founded a youth-focused organizations and a consultancy. He believes in an everyone a change maker world. We have Jacqueline Iminza, who's the Chief Operating Officer at East Africa Private Equity and Venture Capital Association, an organization representing over 100 private capital investors in East Africa. She leads the organizational, strategic and operational planning and execution with her focus on human and capital mobilization. She has fostered partnerships and catalyzed significant investments in East Africa. We also have Harrison Ngatia, who currently leads a team at Kenya Private Sector Alliance focused on SME development. Mr. Ngatia has a diverse leadership, strategic, and operational experience across East and Central Africa, and is focused on creating value through resource mobilization and effective project management. Then we also have Jacinta. Jacinta is an Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement Specialist. She's the lead consultant and founder of In Trade Africa, focusing on regional integration in Africa and AFCFTA implementation. She holds advisory roles in East Africa and other continental platforms, including Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the East Africa Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture. She's an expert on regional integration, trade facilitations, rules of origin, women and youth in international trade, cross-border trade, and MSMEs. She's a moderator and public speaker, and a good one for that. Finally, we are joined by Enos Weswa, who's the country director of UK Tech Hub. He holds a diverse experience in the entrepreneurship and also in the space working as a country director, UK Tech Hub at the moment. Let us start our discussion by exploring the power of regional collaboration. And I'd like Vincent to start us here. Vincent, how does regional collaboration enhance market access and investment opportunities for businesses? And what are the key benefits for enterprises looking to expand beyond their home country? Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Njoki. And let me just point out, I don't know what just happened. You know, my video was on. Then somehow it's just becoming a bit complicated. But I'll try after answering this question to log in again. I really appreciate the invite to be part of this really engaging conversation since morning. And this is absolutely important. Now, Njoki, before I even get to the question, I think there's something important that I made this observation when I was just thinking through the the conference and why this is important. Traditionally, I mean, even since before colonization, I think Africa, there's always been cross-cultural collaboration. There's always been, some levels of collaboration. And what has been happening is that in collaborating, especially at the regional level, there are integrating elements and also there are disintegrating elements. And for us to have this conversation, I think it's also important for us to reflect on that because when you're talking about economic development, integration, I mean, collaboration for economic development, you have to take into consideration some of these factors, some of these, what I'm calling cultural dynamics. And I think at some point, a couple of years ago, UNESCO World Decade of Cultural Development pointed this out. But unfortunately, very little has been done, very little in terms of systematic analysis of the different cross-cultural levels of interaction and to have a better understanding of how regional integrations can happen. And the other thing is that it's when you're thinking about collaboration at the regional level, I mean, it's important, but also very complex. And that's the complexity I'm referring to, this cultural dynamic. The reason why we need to pay attention to it. So the antagonistic relations, based on military, political, social, technological, and even economic domination are things that we have to surface, as we think about regional collaboration, because most, like all African states, still contain these diverse cultural elements. where ideas, practices, and people, weighing in on how collaboration should happen and how it should look like. So this is just to say for the conference, I mean, it will be important to also think about this cross-cultural theory because it does suggest a lot of like looking at those cultural dynamics that contain what I was talking about in terms of disintegrating and integrating factors. So those are factors that can tear down any efforts towards collaboration and integration, and factors that can help us through in terms of leveraging strengths from wealth of different perspectives, knowledge, infrastructure, you name it. So coming to your question, it's pretty obvious why regional collaboration is important, because it's not just about trade. It's also about, building an ecosystem where business, governments, and what we call change makers, people who are solving for the different challenges that we're seeing across, thrive together, move together, and thrive together. And the benefits of this are, things that are, again, quite obvious. Number one is increased revenue and growth potential. When you think about an integrated market, it means more customers, it means higher sales, it means better profit margins for those in goods or services. There is also an element of diversification of risk and economic resilience. When businesses are operating in multiple countries, they are less vulnerable to the different crises that we see, economic downtowns, in single markets. Like we could give example of single states across the region. There is also this bit of attracting investment. So as a bloc, the likelihood of attracting regional and even global investment is high. You can see what the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is about. I think it's it's say that it will boost foreign direct investment. And basically, this is because of the integrated market that is seen in the potential of AfCFTA. So those three things. One, expanded customer base. It's very efficient when you integrate to eliminate trade barriers. I think East Africa Community has been working on reducing tariffs and streamlining customs procedures for quite some time now, and this is essentially to enable free movement of goods and services. Then I also mentioned the investment bit and, of course, expanding customer base. So instead of being limited to a single country, enterprises, businesses can gain access to a regional customer base, and this does increase their potential for market size. So what I'm saying is that there's power in regional collaboration, and we must move towards that, and we must agitate for that. And to do so, we primarily may not be in our place, may not be in our space to do that actively, but I think we need to provide a voice to those who are driving this, to first and foremost also look at those cultural dynamics that I was talking about, because in them, there are perspectives that can help drive towards integration, and also there are perspectives that can help, can impact in terms of disintegration. So we need to have that at the back of our mind. And then, of course, we have to look at collaboration itself, regional collaboration as this shift, a game changer for businesses that are looking at potential to scale beyond their homes and markets. And Joki, I will stop there.
Thank you. Thank you, Vincent, and for highlighting indeed there are opportunities, there are benefits, and it's important that we collaborate. Before coming back to you on a major policy or initiative, I'd like to cross over to Enos. And Enos, I'd like you to speak to overcoming cross-border challenges. What are the biggest barriers that prevent enterprises from expanding across borders? And what are some of the practical steps that businesses can take to navigate the regulatory, cultural, as highlighted, and operational differences? Enos?
All right. Thank you, Njoki. I hope I'm audible enough. And thank you for this opportunity to actually just speak to one of the things that we, as the Tech Hub, have been trying to work around. And I think this comes with the realization that basically because we deal with startup mostly, and then also we try to address the issue of expansion. So I'll try and speak to different types of businesses, but you will forgive me if I base a lot of what our work around really scale ups in moving to cross border markets, especially the region. So there's quite a number of challenges when it comes to expansion, but I'll be using the word mostly scaling, cross-border scaling. There's quite a number of challenges. And I think as Vincent has alluded, there's already the cultural challenge that we know has quite a number of nuances that we were able to uncover during one of the research that we did. So there's a research we did on cross-border expansion and cross-border scaling to actually highlight what are some of the challenges. And I'm happy to share with everyone that report so as it can actually save us some time. But let me just highlight quickly, and then I will focus a lot more on some of the things that we're doing, practical that could potentially support or help businesses scale. So, of course, there's government regulations that we see that those ones are no-brainer. And then the other thing is that because of the what are they called? The models that exist in doing cross-border scaling, not all of them work seamlessly. A good example is maybe a model like JV, and JV is joint ventures. So perhaps you look for someone in cross-border and try and see if another company and try and see if you can have a joint venture to actually scale. I know a company, PTG, if all of you know PTG, PTG, the cab company, decided to expand in Tanzania. And I think they wasted a whole year simply because the partnership didn't work. Now, from this, from the research that was done, that it became such a buzzword when they interviewed a lot of entrepreneurs or a lot of businesses that had expanded to cross-border. They actually alluded to the fact that partnerships really matter a lot. So, and structuring the partnership can actually be a make or break. And JV is sort of a partnership, a working agreement that perhaps we just need someone who understands the market much better and now get us to have some sort of visibility on some of the nuances and cultural differences that we might face when we're trying to expand. So that became such a big thing, partnerships. How do we structure partnerships that work? I've mentioned about PTG. They wasted a whole year because the partnership was structured not in the right way, or rather they got someone who did not share the same vision. And for 1 year, they've been doing back and forth, and they couldn't make any headway to getting that done. Of course, it's a no-brainer that the other thing is resources. And funding for scale is really a very major issue, a very big issue. Because, of course, you need to address the cost that you're incurring in terms of either cost of additional operations, cost of additional acquiring or rather paying for regulatory requirements by the other government, of course, setting up and everything else. So it comes with a lot of heavy cost. And what we've seen is that we try and see how best, because how best do you fundraise for, that's the other question, how best do you fundraise for scaling? Now, of course, for startups, it becomes quite the question of do I look for a seed extension or do I look for a Series A? So depending, you can actually try and see how to accelerate that. But I will actually also unpack some of the things that we've done to actually help with the issue of finance. And then the last thing that perhaps might actually also be sort of a challenge that is coming as a result of culture is just the question of trust and navigating through trust. A lot of businesses, actually, they're just based on trust. And one of the things that I've actually found out, and this is just in the startup sector, in the startup area. First, Kenya was very good at fintech. Then all of a sudden, Nigeria overtook us for fintech. They basically overtook us with fintech. And why? It's because they basically understood how to scale. Now, the other day, we were having a function somewhere, and I met two Nigerians, they are founders. One of them just said, I have actually been in Kenya for 6 months. The other one said, I've been in Kenya for 2 years, because they are really trying to set up an expansion sort of route and understanding what is there. So a lot of our soft landing programs actually take people only for 2 weeks. There's really limited time you can in terms of understanding what are the cultural nuances and what sort of partnerships am I going to create. And so in terms of really establishing trust, that time is not feasible. So, and Nigerians understood that and just they decided to be very intentional in coming up with in setting, going to that country, setting up there and being there and understanding. So as I conclude, I would just refer again to one of the initiatives we've been developing to see if we can probably have a soft landing across the region. Now, it's called the growth path market linkage. I've already mentioned of a research we did. This research was came out, and what came out of this research was a toolkit that is hosted at Kenya. It's a toolkit anyone can access. If you just go to Kenya website, you can actually access it. So what it has only 3 countries. That's Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya, because that's where the tech hubs are. And what it contains a regulatory checklist for you to check and for you to learn what is required of me. And then other than that, it has a case study for a potential route to market, route to cross-border market. And something like JV comes out strongly. But again, the program does highlight the fact that we need to structure partnerships that actually can allow, seriously and practically allow startups to have a soft landing in the cross-border market. So I'll stop there, and yeah, but I think it's so far actually we have 3 companies that we are taking cross-border. One is going to Tanzania, the other one is going to Uganda, and the third one is going to Congo. So what is happening is that as they go, we are learning on the route they take some of the challenges they had and documenting that in the same toolkit. So in a few months, you'll actually get a lot of breakdown of what it means to go to Congo and what sort of soft landing route you can take.
Thank you, Enos. You've well put that. And because of time, I will not reiterate what you've mentioned. I'll go straight on to the next. We have a couple of minutes, so I'll request the panelists. We will shorten. I know we had said 3 to 5 minutes, but we'll shorten so that we allow a catch up onto the sessions. Let me cross over to Jacqueline, and let's talk about investor confidence. How can regional cooperation create a more attractive investment landscape for both local and foreign investment? What key factors influence investor confidence in cross-border? Kindly take us through that. Jacqueline?
Thank you so much, Njoki, for the question, and good morning, everyone. I think that this is a very important topic to discuss. And I'll start by building onto what my colleagues, Vincent and Enos, have already mentioned when it comes to what does it mean to scale or expand across borders. And they've touched on cross-cutting issues on culture, dynamics, there's a regulatory environment and what that looks like. So these are not factors that only affect the businesses, but also translate into the investor confidence levels when it comes to what investors are looking at. And maybe just to add briefly onto businesses and expanding cross-border in terms of practical steps and common mistakes that I've seen happening sometimes is when businesses make a decision to expand without a clear understanding or a clear purpose as to why they are expanding. One of the challenges that's come up is, sometimes businesses are doing it because it's just the next logical step to do, or because investors think it's a great idea to expand, and they are, of course, investing in you and funding that scalability across borders. Sometimes you look at it as, this is what my competitors are doing, and so let me do that. I've had great stories of some startups who, have been building without any funding at all, and they really felt a lot of pressure because the market could not understand how come you're not fundraising yet when your peers are still fundraising. So those are just some of the key things for businesses to look out for in terms of why are we expanding and how does this tie into our broader company mission? Because if you don't have a solid footprint in your home country or in your local market, then it becomes very expensive for you to expand across borders, and you begin facing a lot of regulatory challenges and misalignment even with the market expectations versus your product. That said, when it comes to the investors, one of the key things that investors are looking at is predictability. And when you look at our regional integration, I'd say East Africa offers a lot of significant opportunities in terms of investments, in terms of the talent. We are now witnessing a lot of development on the infrastructure side, relative political stability and governance, which are all playing a key role in just reducing political risks and enhancing investment security for that matter. However, even as we offer these opportunities, there's still challenges such as regulatory inconsistencies and a lot of infrastructure deficits that remain as persistent challenges to facilitate regional integration and cross-border expansion for businesses. And for investors, we look at it as, how do we leverage regional trade blocs such as the East African Community when it comes to reshaping the investment landscape and fostering a more harmonized, stable and attractive environment for both local, and we are also looking at foreign investors who are coming into the region. And so when it comes to the regulatory framework, for example, I'll say African markets and East Africa, to that extent, are very fragmented in terms of maturities, level of maturity, in terms of consumer preference, regulations as well. They are all fragmented. And so I'll take an example of Kenya, for example, where we've seen over the past 3 years, the country has undergone several tax changes, and this has created a lot of uncertainty in the investment climate. So you have, VAT changes. We've had changes on withholding tax for the investors, such as private equity and venture capital. There's been numerous changes on capital gains tax, and investors prioritize predictability, because when you have a predictable tax environment, then you're creating stability. And private equity and venture capital investors are providers of patient capital. So they typically invest for long term, in the sense that they will plan for their exits after at least 7 years of supporting the businesses and creating value in addition to the investment they've made. And so ideally for investors, what's important for them is that they should be able to exit under the same terms that applied at the time of entry. But what we've seen in Kenya, for example, is we've had changes on capital gains tax introduced with the finance bill of 2022, for example, where it changed from an initial 5% to 15%. And when you look at the implementation, it really did not take into consideration how to differentiate between existing investments and new ones that are coming. So this means for investors who invested at, let's say, 2018, 2019, when the capital gains tax was 5%, that's what they planned for, right? And that's what they factored into their expected rate of return. However, when this now changes suddenly to 15% within the investment cycle, then it creates a lot of uncertainty and decreases the expected return on their investment. So I think what's critical is to look at how regional trade blocs, private sector, governments can work together to streamline, harmonize tax frameworks in order to reduce some of these cross-border investment barriers. When you look at travel, for example, across borders, it's more expensive for someone to travel to, within the region as opposed to traveling outside of Africa. So what are we doing as, governments, but how do we also invent win-win situations like strategic partnerships between private sector, and how do we incentivize participation from private, incentivize the private sector to actively participate in shaping regional policies. And this is where we have to step in and talk about engaging regulators early before regulations are passed, contribute to new changes, as opposed to now coming later on when they've already drafted the laws and now wanting to review it. So predictability of the tax environment that looks at harmonizing the regulatory frameworks, which then facilitates ease of market entry. So you're removing the regulatory trade blocks. When you look at licensing, for example, there's also the issue of compliance costs, timelines, for instance, delayed decision making. So all those call for the regional governments to work together, but also to have active involvement from private sector to inspire investor confidence. The other thing that's very critical is what investors are looking for. They need access to a deep and liquid markets. And when you look at our regional markets, or in Africa, for example, our capital markets are still underdeveloped, which then does not inspire as much confidence, especially when it comes to now investors who are seeking to exit investments and consider capital markets such as Nairobi Securities Exchange, for example, as a pathway for exits. And so on that front, I think it calls for us to think of how do we integrate and allow for cross-border listings, for example, how do we work together. And on this, I'd say we've had several progressive conversations with the NSE, for example, to look at how can they even facilitate exits for private equity and venture capital investors through the capital markets, and how do they then come up with a product that fits the business models of private equity, for example. And these are some of the things that we are working together on with the various regulators, having conversations with the NSE to see how we can plug in and help and build the capital market so that we have exit pathways, and also leverage it as a form of mobilizing domestic capital, which is also another critical factor to inspire confidence, especially to the foreign investors who are coming into the region. It's very important for us to also, as locals, have as much local participation when it comes to capital deployment. So we are looking at people such as local angel investors. We are looking at leveraging assets that are, under management by pension funds, for example. And the advantage of having local or domestic capital participation is that you have local investors who have a deeper network and a better understanding of the local nuances when it comes to operating and building businesses across the region. Unfortunately, we've had cases where some foreign investors will come scout for opportunities and end up leaving for lack of, understanding of how to navigate the local environment. And so when you have local investors or domestic players already investing in these businesses, then it helps to inspire a lot more confidence from the foreign investors, thereby attracting more foreign direct investments into the region.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
Yeah.
Thank you. Quite a lot. Allow me to cross to our next panelist because of time, but definitely we've gotten harmonize, predictability, mobilize local ones. So thank you for that. We'll come back to the last comments on that one. I'd like to call on Jacinta. Jacqueline has mentioned, governments, institutions, private sector. I'd like you to speak to what is the role of governments, trade blocs, and financial institutions, and what do they play in strengthening the regional investment and improving the business accessibility in the neighboring markets. With your expertise, kindly speak to that as you tie in to what has been said before in 2 minutes or so.
All right, thank you very much, Njoki, and good morning, everybody from wherever you're logged in. It's a chilly morning in Nairobi. We hope we will enjoy a bit of sunshine later on, but this is a very exciting moment for the country, for the region, and for the continent as a whole. And because we have seen what has happened with the removal of aid, the aid conversation is diminishing. Now, Africa is being forced to look into itself and to have an internal conversation. And this is a very, very, very timely one. And I will ask Mercy to excuse me because the organization is currently looking at this conversation from a regional perspective, whereas we have the opportunity to amplify the conversation and include everyone within the continent under the aegis of the AfCFTA, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which was signed in 2018 in unison by the heads of state. 54 countries signed this amazing agreement under Agenda 2063. So I know we are still leaning on our regional economic communities, the RECs, where there are 8 of them within the continent. But our heads of state have come together and said, at the end of the day, this fragmentation will not work for us. If we do not bite the bullet early enough and start seeing ourselves as a huge, huge, huge market, actually the largest market in the world outside of the WTO. I think that is what is lost to Africa. There's certain facts that are not being brought to light. One, we are the largest trading bloc outside the WTO in terms of member states. We have the youngest population in the world, where the average age of the population is below the age of 19. So everybody in this call that is logged in is actually above the average age. So the majority of the population are the youth. Then over and above that, Africa has 30% of all the resources, and 60% of the total arable land on the planet is found in Africa. Now, if we start if we continue fragmenting ourselves and looking at ourselves in terms of the regional economic communities, we are missing out on the bigger conversation. And we have seen how America has decided to now look internally and find solutions for the American people. This is the conversation that Africa now needs to have in unity. So what should African governments do? We should now start educating the public on what truly the opportunities are. And I see the opportunities as biting a bigger part of the pie than we are presenting ourselves with. Africa is actually the only frontier left to be conquered. We cannot keep developing in silos. And whether we like it or not, as a government, as a nation, the nation of Kenya, we have the government that we voted in. So what does that mean? It means that we have to engage a lot more, put our views on the table, and articulate what it is that we need. Now, from a government perspective, what should the government do? The government must create innovative and friendly policies. Now, when I say that, I come from a perspective of having been in government before. These policies tend to be very well documented, very well even shared, as one of the panelists has mentioned that yesterday, the AI Kenyan policy was launched. Now, what I find about these documents is that they're not simple enough to be consumed by the majority of the population within the country. If the majority of the population is below the age of 19, please tell me, will a 19-year-old read that document, understand that document, and have the mindset to implement what has been articulated in that document? No, the answer is no. So what I find and what I decided to do from an individual perspective is to take my speaking skills and tell government, listen, you need to simplify this information so that the majority of the people within the continent can consume it and act on it. If these documents remain high level, nobody is ever going to get there. Even the conversations that we have, they're very high level. They're never intended for the majority, who are the youth. Whether we like it or not, the message must be simplified to be consumed by the majority of the population within the continent. The other thing that I find that people don't realize about Africa, we keep talking about the government should invest in infrastructure. There's something we also need to remember. Africa is a very young continent. And when I say young, I mean we are only 60 years old. The rest of the governments on the planet are above 200 years, 100 years plus. So Africa was never intended to be a developed economy. It was an extractive economy. It was where everybody got what they wanted. So the ports were developed, the roads towards the ports were developed, the railways towards the ports were developed to remove resources from within the middle of Africa to export, to develop Europe, the Americas, Asia, and stuff like that. And Africa is still trying to find its way within itself. So here we are still talking about external investors. Why are we talking about external investors when the conversation should be how now do we integrate Africa so that what is within Africa remains within Africa for the use of Africa by Africans? That is what the AFCFTA is all about, is that we stop looking at the ports as points of exit to other markets to fulfill the needs of other markets, whereas Africa in itself, in totality, is a market. So we should be looking, if you look at the map of Africa, you will find under Agenda 2063, you will find that there is a very comprehensive and ambitious railway network project, infrastructure project that is meant to be serving the African market. But the conversation in our minds is still serving an external market. Unless we ourselves come and see ourselves as a united market, the conversation will never pivot and it will never change. So market access should be an internal conversation. The solutions must be led by Africans. The solution must be African-oriented. The solution must be driven by Africans. And what I love about what is happening within Africa, and especially the conversation we've had at the Africa Union with the election, for the first time as a continent, we came together and elected a chairperson. There was that involvement. Now, when I look at the AFCFTA and the stages of regional integration, very quickly, there is an FTA. That is where we are with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Customs Union is the East African Community. That has the common external tariff. Then you come to the common market. A common market, an example is COMESA. Now we have the tripartite, which is SADC, the East African Community, and COMESA as a whole coming together. Then we have an economic union. An economic union, for example, the one that we have in the world is the European Union, where you're using one currency, the euro. And then finally, you have what we call a political union. A political union is where you come together and, for example, the United States, and you have federal states, but you have a united currency and a united government, but under federal states. So Africa is still at the FTA level. So we have a very long way to go. So my clarion call will be, as we look at ourselves as a region, there is a bigger conversation. And why not bite that pie now, when the pain points are lower, before the world shifts and realigns itself, and we find we are still left out in our little silos. Thank you, Njoki.
Thank you. Thank you, Jacinta. I could not even interrupt. The market is Africa. I know we are running or run out of time, but we cannot let Harrison not speak to us. So Harrison, very, very quickly, kindly speak on how we can leverage technology for expansion and how we can balance competition and cooperation. So what digital platforms, fintech solutions can revolutionize global trade? What are some of the game-changing tools that can help businesses scale beyond borders and attract investment? And how can we see businesses, in form of collaboration as opposed to competition? Quickly, in a few minutes, go over that, and sorry to rush you.
Okay, thank you very much, Njoki, and thanks also to my fellow panelists, and good morning, everyone. So I think in terms of leveraging the digital platforms, if you look at the market size, I will want to speak about the market size based on what Jacinta mentioned earlier. If you look at East Africa, we have more than 500 million in terms of population. In terms of Africa, we have more than 1.5 billion people. So, market size, meaning in terms of the regional market, we have the numbers. I think now what we need is how to reach them, and the best and the easiest way to reach the market is leveraging on technology. So I will start it off on how then businesses can leverage on e-commerce and social commerce. E-commerce has been there for sometimes. Social commerce is now overtaking it. If you think about how you can leverage WhatsApp, TikTok, and other social commerce platforms to reach to your customers, then based on that, we are as Jacinta said, we are very, in terms of the population, we have a very young population with a mean age of 18 years. Meaning most of our customers are below or are on average 18 years. And we have seen a lot of shift even in the Kenyan setup. If you look at how most young people are buying, they buy through either social commerce or e-commerce, and they get their products delivered to where they are. They don't want to go to the physical shops. So it will be important for business to think through how then they need to serve this critical population. but they have to also to think about end-to-end processes, especially logistics and payment solutions, which are key barriers of trade, especially when you're thinking about ensuring that the customers are served. So that's one of the areas that businesses can think through and be able to leverage and be able to go beyond their physical shops and the branches. The other area is how to leverage on cloud computing platforms. There's so much data that businesses are storing, which takes a lot of space, and also it's disaggregated, and processing become a challenge. So taking advantage of cloud computing platforms so that you are able to centralize your data and you are able also to process it for decision making. Also looking at how then also we can sort some of the issues like funding through crowd funding platforms and payment solution, especially from a fintech, which are resolving some of the key barriers that I've seen close to border, especially if you look at most businesses who use the traditional payment solutions, the delay in getting payments from customers is enormous. So that is being resolved by fintech solutions, especially those that are related to payment. Think about M-Pesa, how M-Pesa is in terms of ensuring that businesses are able to access their payments instantly. The other tool that are also important is artificial intelligence. How do we use the data that we have to predict in terms of customer behavior and be able to predict also which products do our customers require, which regions, and businesses are able to make instant decisions, which are then able to resolve key areas like, you don't need to move stocks to where they are not needed. So that becomes a very useful tool as they continue. So why do business need to adopt these digital tools? I will just highlight some key benefits: enhanced productivity. So a business is able to, once they are able to adopt the technology, then it means that their productivity in terms of ensuring efficiency, which reduce time and costs for businesses, and ensures that customers are able to be served in a timely manner. The other aspect is ensuring that we have improved customer service through use of tools like customer relationship management technologies. So understanding the business and understanding the customer's preference, then which resort to personalized service and higher satisfaction by customers and loyalty. Then the other aspect is ensuring informed decisions and timely decision making using those tools. So that is very critical. I'll go to the other area why we need to collaborate more.
And maybe, Harrison, just in 30 seconds or so. Sorry to rush you again.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So why businesses need to collaborate more without thinking they are competing? Because if I will use an example of businesses that were able to collaborate, Starbucks and Barnes and Noble. They collaborated, and through this partnership, they were able to drive foot traffic to both establishment And in the process, they were able to increase their sales by over 20%. So there is a way that businesses need to think through how the collaboration will enhance their efficiency, which should reduce their cost, but also enhance their reach. So in terms of some of the major policy that I feel like we need to look at is the issue, especially in technology, in IT, is cybersecurity, because as we move to our data to the internet, there is a lot of risks that come with that, especially from data aspect. So ensuring that we put in place infrastructure that will support that. Because most businesses, especially the smaller ones, may not have the capacity, and therefore they are very vulnerable. And taking consideration, most of our businesses in the region, over 90% are the small businesses. So they require that support to ensure that we are able to protect their data and also protect the consumers. Thank you, Joki. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Because of time, I will not come to the final piece of advice, but perhaps all of us have benefited from some of the insights that have mentioned. Indeed, regional collaboration is important. We have to overcome the barriers. Investor confidence is important. Governments and institutions have a role, and Africa is a market. We can leverage on technology. Partnerships are key, and policy initiatives will make a huge difference. I'd like to thank all my panelists for being here, for sharing your expertise. There's a lot. I believe would have needed, almost a whole day to just expound this further. And thank you all for being here and engaging via chat. We can continue to interact with our panelists as we glean on what more we can do, what policies need to move, and what are the tips and tricks around collaboration. Thank you again so much, and back to you, Mercy.
Sorry, Joki.
Sorry, Vincent. Yes.
Yeah, just less than a minute. I think when we're looking at what are the best, like an initiative or even policy, I just wanted to mention, it's really hard to pick on one or even just one policy or one initiative. But what I would say is, whatever it is, it has to be anchored on four principles. Number one, it has to focus on systems. Let's think beyond just one sector. Number two, we have to push back on this notion that, progress is predetermined. I think there was a comment there engaging, the populace. And number three, I think we need to design systems for the future. So whether we're looking at policy, whether we're looking at mindset shift or new markets, market dynamics, we have to think about the future. Then the last thing is social and ethical values must underpin everything that we are doing if we really want to collaborate and build an ecosystem, not just to encourage trade, but build an ecosystem across the region. And I think that's where ASEC is heading. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. I know we have a lot. Thank you for highlighting those five. I cannot add a word. Mercy, we will need another session with these awesome panelists to elaborate more. There's a lot to be said. Back to you. Are on mute.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Njoki. I think if there's anything that I'm taking away from this launch event is actually the validation of why we are organizing this regional innovation and entrepreneurship summit, because the need is there. The partners are willing to actually work together to ensure that we are addressing those key issues and key challenges. And so it's really a testament that we are on the right direction. I liked what you said, Jacinta, that we need to take it Pan-African. Forget about only Kenya and East Africa, but we need to go Pan-African. But I believe in starting with where we are now and today. And so if I can also just share with you who we are and actually why we were organizing this, or even the back end story of how we came up with this summit. Is something that I feel that we should all play a part and see how we can all contribute to making this a total success. So let me know if you can see my screen. Wonderful. So my name is Masi Kimalat. I'm the CEO for ASEC, which stands for the Association of Startup and SME Enablers of Kenya. We're a network organization that's really bringing together every entrepreneur support organization, whether it's an incubator, accelerator, a venture builder, a co-working space, or any outfit, whether you're an NGO, private sector, or even within the government itself, that is actually supporting startups and SMEs to improve on their business model, helping them access markets, and also build their capacity to absorb more investment into their business. And the main goal for ASEC is really to strengthen and enable the entrepreneurship ecosystem to thrive and grow. And we deliver this mandate through our 4 key pillars. The first one is working with policy and advocacy. How can we bring in government agencies and regulatory bodies to actually discuss about how we can strengthen and enable an environment where we start businesses, but they also are able to thrive and grow. The second one is looking at collaboration. It's a very tricky topic because even Enos, you pointed towards trust. How do we bring in multiple stakeholders together on the same table and actually have a shared value so that we increase our synergies and also reduce duplication of efforts in the ecosystem? When we come together as multi-stakeholders, the ripple effect can be at maximum level, because now we're replicating impact also at the local grassroots level. The third one is on internationalization, whereby we partner with different agencies, organizations, development partners, and also of course, attachés in the different commerce regions, where now we create route to market opportunities for these startups and SMEs to thrive. And our members who are delivering the capacity, support, and investment are able to walk that journey through with the entrepreneur as they scale. The fourth one is on capacity building, looking at how can we ensure that as an ecosystem, we're updated with tools, technology, and also the skill set in terms of being able to manage the growth and also manage the disruption as we are currently seeing in the ecosystem. And that is why the discussion around universities was very important, because they are the ones that are producing a large quantity of young people that are talented and skilled, but where do they go next? And that is why we're very keen on capacity building to ensure that also the talent that's coming into the entrepreneurship sector can be able to be matched with the needs of the industry. We have members that are delivering this service across the country, and also they've been also expanding across East Africa, and there are more than 150, and they're also tailored across the different sectors. So if you're an entrepreneur in agriculture, manufacturing, health and biosciences, green and circular economy, we have the e-mobility, if you're doing anything around affordable housing, education technology and ICT, and also anything around hardware innovation, which is around maker spaces, then our members are able to deliver that impact for you. Now, coming into the discussion for today and why this is a very important conversation to have, we have to look at the principles and this understanding the reason why this is important. Now, if you can just take a moment with me and imagine a region where innovation knows no borders, where a landscape that has entrepreneurial spirit meeting technological ambition, where you have creative solutions which are blending in with an innovative mindset, then surely we are yet to spark a collaborative breakthrough, not only in one country, which is in Kenya or Uganda or Tanzania, but across 8 countries in the East Africa region. The reason why we're focusing on East Africa is because we know that we have similar culture and also similar identity in terms of who we are, and that becomes an area where we can first of all start from home and then scale across Africa. Today, we stand at the threshold of a revolutionary moment whereby we are launching the first ever Regional Innovation and Entrepreneurship Summit for East Africa that has been proudly organized by ASEC, which is the Association of Startup and SME Enablers of Kenya. And this summit is just more than a gathering. It's a bold declaration of our commitment to foster an ecosystem where startups, change makers, industry leaders can connect, collaborate, and catalyze a transformative growth across East Africa. As our region rapidly emerges as a global hub for business and innovation, then the need for strategic partnerships, sustainable venture building, and also cross-border collaboration has never been greater. Through this summit, we are setting the stage for a future where entrepreneurs can thrive, ideas can flourish, and regional economies can also grow exponentially. We're not just here to talk, we're here to build, to innovate, and to partner with each and every one of you and also your organizations to really shape the future of East Africa together. So welcome to the beginning of a new era in innovation and entrepreneurship. As I continue, I just want to share with you also some of the key things that are actually coming up within this summit as well. If you look at East Africa, just a few highlights and also facts and figures. It's really rising in terms of entrepreneurship. The startup ecosystem is valued at over $7 billion. We have a 50% surge in startups over the past 5 years, and over $2 billion has actually been invested in this startup ecosystem in terms of venture capital. We have over 70% of the population under 30 being young, innovative, and also being part of this growing demographic. If you're looking at the key innovation hubs within East Africa, Kenya is really known for the fintech revolution. Of course, we have to give credit to M-Pesa that has really catalyzed financial inclusion into the economy. And then also, if you look at Rwanda, we're also looking at how they've been able to establish startup-friendly policies that are really helping businesses establish as quickly as possible and ensuring that they are also being able to be invested in quite easily. If you look at Uganda, there's a lot of creative industries that are coming out of there, and they're really challenging and championing that sector to really thrive and grow. We also have Tanzania, which also is a thriving business in agriculture, in agribusiness as well. Just a minute. And also, if you look at Ethiopia, it's actually growing to become a digital economy. I remember last year I hosted the Ethiopia ICT Association, and they have more than 5,000 companies who are actually in the ICT sector, and they're actually looking towards scaling beyond their own borders. So if you look at each country within East Africa, there's really potential for us to tap into and really grow. If you look at the power of collaborative innovation, the time has come. The reason why is because there's much more disruptions that are coming up, but also alongside that is how technology is also evolving into becoming more platform-centric, meaning that more people and more organizations have to integrate their own technology and also talent to really tap into this emerging innovation. So if you look at the summit vision, we have three. One is connecting, fostering, and transforming. One is looking at how do we connect startups with networking platforms for accessibility for funding, markets, and also future customers. The other one is fostering partnerships. How can we create a bridge between public and private sector and really catalyze all the impact at a national, but also at a regional block level. The other one also is looking at promoting collaboration, whereby we're linking universities, research, and industry to be able to have one unified voice in terms of how we should be able to shape the future of innovation using data-driven evidence. The fourth one is how can we encourage innovation by showcasing innovative and breakthrough ideas that are solving pertinent issues within the ecosystem. Some of the success story highlights, one, you can see Mkopa Solar, which is based in Kenya, but also across the region. They're providing solar energy and also now have pivoted to now provide financial inclusion. We have Safe Border that is providing tech-driven transport solutions. We have Andela and Gebea that are also providing global tech talent development. Looking at the key objectives of the summit, we're going to look at one, how do we enhance access to markets and investment? And what you just heard from the previous conversation in the panel, that is just a start of the conversation. The second one is how do we really strengthen regional collaboration? And it's not just having one organization partner with another. We're looking at multiple organizations and multiple stakeholders coming together to forge a collaboration framework. And then, of course, looking at policy and advocacy. as you rightly know, policy doesn't only affect one country, but also at a regional and also Pan-African level. So how then can we amplify our voice and also contribute in terms of data so that the government and other policymakers can be able to shape policies that are relevant for the innovation ecosystem. Also, the other one is looking at how to empower local entrepreneurship actors with the tools, the skills, and also linking them with mentors that are also at a different country or a different growth stage so that they are able to now strengthen and grow their enterprises and be taken to the next level. The final one is looking at how we can actually showcase innovation, knowledge, and best practices, and how all of these can be packaged into toolkits, into reports, into publications that all of us can actually consume at that level and be able to contribute at a regional level as well. If you're looking at some of the outcomes, sorry, there's someone who's unmuted. If you look at the outcomes, we're looking at one, how can we deepen the understanding of the entrepreneurship ecosystem, trends, and challenges? This is important because if you are an investor, if you are an ecosystem builder, if you are also an entrepreneur support organization, or even if you're a startup or SME, how are you actually addressing the key core issues or addressing the customer needs or trends in the ecosystem? The second one is looking at how we can have a stronger collaboration to really address regional challenges and also scale innovations. And then also the third outcome is policy recommendations to really shape regulations and initiatives. And finally, we're having an empowered ecosystem that is looking at an empowered and at enhanced capacity for ESOs to support startups effectively. Now, I know you're looking at this and wondering, Mercy, this is too ambitious. Do not worry, this is a journey we are walking together. The first conversation has just started today, and it's something that we're going to continue on the 10th and 11th of April, and we also continue as the years progress as well, until we find and identify how we want the East Africa innovation ecosystem to look like. So some of the themes that we are able to map out and also getting feedback from different partners and also even other international stakeholders who really want to also collaborate effectively with the East Africa region. Some of the themes that we'll be tackling are one, looking at innovation and disruption. We'll also be looking at sustainability and social impact. We'll be looking at scaling and growth. How do you ensure that a startup or SME or even a hub can actually scale across the region and be sustainable in itself? We're also going to be looking at digital transformation, where we're looking at emerging technology and also future of technology that is yet to come and how we can prepare as well as an ecosystem. Also looking at funding and investments. This has been also changing and also looking at how we can be prepared for the future of funding and also what our businesses need to be invested in. We're also going to be focusing on networking and collaboration. This will be cross-cutting the entire summit, and our next speaker will be talking more about that. And then also looking at regional opportunities, actually showcasing emerging opportunities that other stakeholders can tap into and also divulge. And then also focusing on leadership and culture. Ladies and gentlemen, you can build a great business, but if you do not have the governance structures, you do not have the right team, you do not have the right systems and processes, and also the culture in itself for innovation, then that business will definitely not grow, even if they're meeting the customer needs. And then also, of course, we'll be looking at the future of work. As you can see, we are having a shift in terms of how the workforce is looking like, and even in terms of how the work itself, with the disruption of AI and cybersecurity and future technologies, then how does the future of work look like? Yet we have universities, we have the TVETs, we also have other EdTech innovation hubs that are really producing talent. So we'll be able to look at that at a holistic level. And then, of course, looking at women and diversity in entrepreneurship. As our keynote speaker, Madam Nancy, mentioned, that we should not leave the women and the youth behind, as they have been left behind on so many different initiatives. So how do we have a more inclusive, more gender representative, and also PWDs coming into the conversation to actually share their perspective to shape the future of the ecosystem? So some of the benefits for the different stakeholders that will be attending. So looking at entrepreneurs, we'll be able to get linkages to funding and also regional networking. for universities, it's an opportunity to actually showcase some of the innovations that you have, to be able to catalyze research to commercialization. For investors, it's getting access to early stage and high potential ventures, which all our members have been working with over the years. And then also for policymakers, just to better understand the ecosystem and also get updated data in terms of how and the trends of how enterprises are growing within the region. And of course, for the regional economy, looking at how we can actually catalyze job creation that can really foster the GDP growth as well. The call to action, of course, is looking at how entrepreneurs can innovate and build enterprises that are addressing critical socioeconomic challenges. For investors is to really believe in the East African potential. And that's why I'm really happy to have Jacqueline here from the East Africa Venture Capital Association being part of this conversation and actually sharing her insights around that. And then also for policymakers, how we can create supportive environments. We've heard about the Kenya National Innovation Agency. We've also heard from the Kenya School of Government. Government is willing to listen, and they're also willing to go back and see how to adapt the policy frameworks and also challenges that have been coming up from the sector. And then also for universities, it's a call to action to also be able to incubate all these enterprises within the university so we can leverage the infrastructure that is existing to be able to build and grow. And of course, for the youth, dream big, build, and also be the leaders that we need, not only for tomorrow, but even for today. And together, we're really shaping the destiny for East Africa. At this juncture, I'd like to invite Wayne to come forth. And if you have any questions, please do put them on the chat and we'll respond to them as well. So Wayne, I can ask you to come in and talk about the agenda.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Mercy, for that wonderful introduction, quite comprehensive. So I want to take you through, the agenda. So first and foremost, we have the pre-summit activities, that is the RIESEA Golf Tournament, which is happening on the 9th of April, and that will be at the Windsor Golf Hotel and Country Club. Quite an interesting initiative that is coming in to sort of shake up the entrepreneurship ecosystem in terms of giving ESOs, entrepreneurs, startups, ecosystem players, government agencies, just an opportunity to network, to see how we can collaborate through the tournament. It's going to be an exciting opportunity to also tap into the golfing community, which of course has quite a number of entrepreneurs who would benefit from the resources that the ecosystem has to offer through consultancy, through different services that the ESOs are able to offer in the East African community. So apart from that, those who will not be attending the golf tournament will be having the innovation tour, which is basically a tour of the innovation ecosystem happening in Kenya. So that will also be happening on the 9th of April. The links are also being shared on the group chats so that you can be able to register and sign up for either of the two events. So ideally, this will be happening on the 9th of April, and then thereafter we shall have the summit on the 10th and 11th of April. And for the two events, we are also seeking for sponsors. This is for the golf tournament and also for the summit that is happening on the 10th and 11th. So we are inviting all of you to come and be part of the sponsors list and also part of the vendors list. So basically, this will enhance you to position yourself as a thought leader in, of course, development or driving innovation and the entrepreneurship journey. And of course, for vendors, being able to highlight your brand and connect with business professionals through exclusive networking opportunities. So we can jump straight into the agenda for day one. So we can go to the next slide. So the first agenda will be a tour of the exhibition, and then thereafter we shall have an opening statement or address of the summit. This is basically just to set the stage to create impactful gathering of East Africa's leading innovators, entrepreneurs, policymakers, and ecosystem enablers who are part of those who we would like to see at the summit. And then thereafter, we shall have a keynote address, and thereafter we will have quite a number of discussions, and we've had quite an interesting panel discussion today too, and we saw a lot of insights coming from those two panel discussions, and definitely this is a conversation that we would like to still continuously have, and this can be expanded into the summit. So the panel will be more or less about accelerating job creation and socio-economic development in the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem in East Africa community. Thereafter, we shall have a spotlight feature, and then we shall continue with discussions on cross-border entrepreneurship and unlocking cross-sector collaboration to achieve sustainable development goals. So that will set the tone for day one. Quite an interesting day full of panel discussions, breakout sessions, and of course, keynote sessions that will happen on day one. So in day two, we can move to day two. So day two, we shall have still the tour of the exhibition, and then thereafter we'll have a shift in investment partners for ESG compliance, scalability, and sustainability. Then we'll have a fireside chat, just looking at the success stories of African startups, attracting global investments. And then we still have a conversation on accelerating job creation and socio-economic development in the innovation and the entrepreneurship ecosystem. We'll have a spotlight session on innovative financing models for growing African enterprises. And then a panel discussion on co-investment opportunities between local and international players. Mental awareness or mental well-being in the entrepreneurship ecosystem is also very key. I've seen focus on mental well-being, especially for ESOs and the different leaders in the ecosystem. So this will also be very instrumental just to make sure that we are in the right mind space, so that even as we continue leading our different ESOs or leading the different ventures that we have in supporting entrepreneurs and also supporting the different startups, we make sure that we're also in the right mind space. And then we'll have a discussion on what's the way forward, harnessing the different lessons, takeaways, and of course, the next steps. So this 2 days will be very critical in us making sure that we are able to drive innovation to accelerate East Africa's competitiveness in investment market and job creation. So it's very critical for all of us to attend and be there for the 3 days, starting with the golf tournament or the innovation tour, and then going to the 2 days summit that will be happening in Nairobi. So how to register? Basically, we have a form for the innovation tour, and we also have a link for the golf tournament. But most of the information can be found on the RIESEA website, which is asec.ke/RIESEA Summit, RIESEA-Summit. So through that link, you're able to find a lot of information on more about the summit and what is going to be going on between the 2 days. So even the program, all the speakers, the registration links are on the website. And also how to purchase the summit tickets. The link has been shared. And of course, even after this, the links will be shared to you so that you're able to get your tickets through the 2 links that will be shared. So I think mine is to invite all of you to the summit and also to ensure that we're able to shape up the entrepreneurship ecosystem in East Africa. Let's come together and create an ecosystem that is able to drive innovation and, of course, to take the ecosystem to the next level. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you in the summit. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's George Wayne. He's a founder and managing director of Nakuru Box, all the way in Nakuru, and also is part of the organizing committee. So allow me now at this point just to play the launch video, and then we shall close in a few minutes. Now this is where I get to test my IT skills. Okay. Let me know if you can hear the sound. George, able to hear the sound?
It is paused, yeah?
Okay. Let me know what to do. Thank you. So we officially declare the RIESEA Summit launched, and we are so happy that you're all part of us. If you can, just throw some emojis, some reactions. I am throwing some confetti. So we're doing that here. And when we definitely meet up on the summit day, we can also take a photo. So thank you so much, everyone, for being part of this conversation. And I'd now like to invite Caroline Yamoya Mwazi just to give us the vote of thanks and also the closing remarks.
Thank you, Mercy, and really excited and already getting excited to join the summit. I'll keep this really short because of the time, but really it's been a very rich morning. We've heard from some excellent panelists, and just to let everyone know, this is how we do it in ASEC, brilliant conversations. And I just want to echo what one of us spoke. I think she's even left. She shared a comment in chat here. A summary of the actions would be good as well. So just warm thanks to Mercy for putting this together, but also to our keynote speaker, Nancy Gitonga, our two moderators today, Bernadette Mutinda, Joki Riguga Kiama, and then of course to the team. Thanks for that introduction to the summit as well. It's 3 days, so 9th is golf and also visits to some hubs. 10th and 11th is the summit itself. You want to plan to be there for the entire event because you don't know who you meet, you don't know where your next engagement, your next connection will come from. So just a warm thanks also to all of you for attending. I know we've gone over time a little, but really appreciating you for staying right up to just shy of 12 o'clock and looking forward to just seeing you all. As I always say, the conversation continues, but Mercy and team, this has been brilliant and let's keep it going. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the day and your weekend ahead. Back to you, Mercy.
Thank you so much, everyone. And yes, I've seen Salim has asked for a discount. Yes, who are we if not asking for, we can always negotiate. So yes, I think we'll send a promo code this afternoon to each and every one of you to be able to register in advance. We'll give you up to Monday so you can register with a discount code. Yes, Lazarus, yes. We also have to listen to the audience and what they need. But just a big thank you to each and every one of you. Please do sign up and join and be part of the summit. Be part of this inaugural experience and also contribute and share this with your networks and different partners as well. I know we have gone over above the time, but I really want to appreciate each and every one of you for still remaining behind and having a very engaging discussion as well. Asante sana and have a lovely afternoon. The official session has come to an end. If you still want to network, we can leave the room open for the next 5 minutes and then you can proceed with your day. But asante sana everyone and have a lovely afternoon. Bye.